Shivers. Yuji lives next door to a girl named Rina who cannot leave the house because she has a serious illness. She screams in terror that there are bugs swarming all over her, although her mother says it's a hallucination. Rina is regularly visited at home by a doctor, but his visits cause her to become extremely agitated. Yuji has also observed that her skin is full of deep holes everywhere. Her family's garden is completely overgrown, and on the rare occasions Yuji sees her outside, she will point at the bushes and giggle. One day, after seeing her appear, he suddenly has a memory of when he was a young child and his grandfather died. Yuji saw that his grandfather's body had become completely hollowed out with holes like Rina's, but his parents told him he imagined it. In the present day, Yuji meets up with his friend Hideo. Hideo's mother is a midwife at the local hospital who delivered Rina at birth. Rina was born not breathing, and the doctors could not explain how she was alive. But then the holes began to open in her skin, and she was somehow able to breathe through them. However, Hideo claims his mother might be making this story up, and Yuji doesn't know what to believe. Hideo browses through the books at Yuji's house, and the two read through a diary that Yuji's grandfather wrote. After acquiring a jade insect statue that an old comrade found in Java, he developed a chill and was visited by a mysterious doctor who gave him an injection. Holes began to open up in his skin and draft came in through them. Then, insects began to crawl out from the holes in swarms. He called this the curse of the jade statue and threw it into the neighboring garden. He also believed that the doctor who had been visiting him wanted to steal the jade. The boys put down the diary when Rina appears at her window, once again pointing towards the bushes. Hideo starts to feel cold, so he leaves. Yuji watches as Rina's doctor comes to visit her, but she screams and slams the door in his face. Yuji half remembers the face of the doctor who attended Yuji's grandfather, and comes to suspect they are the same person. He debates over whether or not to tell Rina's family that his grandfather is responsible for the curse on their daughter. Hideo encourages Yuji to keep quiet about it, but Yuji resolves he must tell the truth. As he is about to go over to their house, he sees Rina in the garden outside, apparently recovered. She is calm and happy, and her skin looks completely normal. That night, Hideo, now completely hollowed out with holes, breaks into Yuji's room. On the day they found the diary, he went looking for the jade statue in the bushes outside Rina's house. He took a chance with the curse because he knew the jade must be valuable, but then the holes began to open up in his body. He is now possessed by the statue and can't throw it away, although he has tried many times. He says that the doctor is the curse's messenger, who appears wherever the jade is. Suddenly, the doctor appears and Hideo runs screaming from him. The following day, Yuji finds Hideo's dead body beside the river where he had tried to dispose of the jade. The jade is nowhere to be found. House of the Marionettes. Haruhiko's family travel around Japan putting on puppet shows. They never stay anywhere for longer than a month, so Haruhiko has no time to make friends. While staying in one town, he becomes friendly with a girl called Kanuko and takes her to see his family's puppets. She is frightened by Jean-Pierre, a creepy-looking puppet that belongs to his brother Yukihiko. Shortly after, the family has to leave town, but Kanuko promises that she will see Haruhiko again. Haruhiko's father gets sick and the family has to move into an apartment. Their father talks about how he loves being a puppeteer because he controls the puppets completely. While alone with Haruhiko, Yukihiko says he's always thought that it was the other way around. Their father was doing whatever the puppets wanted. He runs away from home that night. Their father later dies, and Haruhiko and his sister Natsumi go to live with a cousin, eventually getting their own place when Haruhiko is in high school. Haruhiko meets Kanuko again, and she becomes his girlfriend. One day, they receive a letter from Yukihiko. He is now living in the same town and invites them to visit him, his wife, and his son. He is extremely rich and owns his own company, but he and his family are suspended from piano wire that is controlled from the ceiling by hired puppeteers. Haruhiko is very disturbed, but Yukihiko says that the puppet is the one in charge of the puppeteer. Yukihiko still has Jean-Pierre, and he owns a set of life-sized ballet dancer puppets designed to entertain people. Haruhiko doesn't want to visit again, but Natsumi loves Yukihiko's house, and they begin to visit regularly. She wants to become a puppet herself and dance like the ballet puppets. She dresses up and is controlled by the puppeteers to dance beautifully like the dolls. Haruhiko is upset that Yukihiko and his family have never taken the strings off in 2 years, and even more upset when Natsumi refuses to take off her costume and go home. He is forced to let Natsumi live with Yukihiko, but refuses to move in himself. He doesn't want Kanuko to meet Yukihiko and has to make excuses for his visits to Yukihiko's house. When Haruhiko visits the house one day, the ballet puppets lead him into a room and try to get him to put on strings. Kinuko has followed him and is watching from the street. She mistakes one of the puppets for a real woman and thinks Haruhiko is cheating on her. Suddenly, Jean-Pierre arrives and lures her into the house. Inside, the puppets have begun to dance wildly, including Yukihiko and his family. Yukihiko screams that Jean-Pierre is out of control, causing Haruhiko to realize that Jean-Pierre has been manipulating Yukihiko's mind the whole time. Haruhiko chases after Jean-Pierre and discovers Kinuko, whom Jean-Pierre has violently stabbed to death and suspended from the ceiling. After a brief fight, Haruhiko destroys Jean-Pierre by slamming him to pieces. He rescues Natsumi, but Yukihiko and his family are no longer human. They are marionettes made of wood. Haruhiko thinks that maybe they were always that way, he just didn't notice. Further tales of Ashikiri. A terrified young woman runs through Ashikiri's house, afraid that he will find her there. Ashikiri recognizes her as his classmate, Mio Fuji. He demands to know why she's there so late, but Mio screams and runs from him. When he grabs her, she disappears into thin air. The next day, Mio is at school as if nothing happened. She is her normal happy self and seems totally different from the girl Ashikiri saw. Ashikiri concludes that his house contains a portal to other dimensions, and the Mio he met last night must have been from a parallel universe. The present Mio has noticed him watching her, but Ashikiri denies it. A bully named Aoyama teases Ashikiri about his height, and the two get into a fight, although Mio tries to intervene to stop it. Back at home, Ashikiri wonders again about the alternate Mio he saw in his house and why she was so afraid of him. He suddenly hears Aoyama's voice. When he goes out into the hallway, he sees that Aoyama is a giant monster heading towards him. Aoyama melts into a puddle of slime, proving that what Ashikiri saw was real. However, when Ashikiri goes to school the following day, Aoyama is there as usual. Ashikiri and Mio become close over time. Mio has heard from classmates that Ashikiri's house is like a magnificent western castle, and she asks him to show her around. Ashikiri takes Mio to his house but won't show her inside, and explains that it contains a portal to another dimension where his and Mio's doubles live. Mio believes that Ashikiri is making this up to keep people from getting too close to him. She encourages him to let her in to both his heart and the house. Ashikiri agrees that what he saw might have been hallucinations, but then sees that Mio is missing. Mio doesn't return to school for 3 days. Ashikiri believes she has become trapped in the parallel dimension. He hears her voice and goes out into the hallway, where Mio has become a gigantic blob monster. She says that Ashikiri did this to her and vows to curse him before dissolving away into slime like the parallel Aoyama. Ashikiri realizes that the parallel dimension is in a state of chaos and it's his counterpart that's causing it. Suddenly, Ashikiri finds himself on a different floor of the house. There, his counterpart has tied up Mio and is experimenting on her with a syringe. He states that he's tried his drugs before on both her and Aoyama, but the experiments ended disastrously. Mio and Ashikiri are now trapped in this other Ashikiri's world. Both versions of Ashikiri fight over the syringe, and one gets injected, causing his bones and muscles to tear apart and extend. Ashikiri frees Mio and explains that he is the real Ashikiri she knew. He had taken the syringe from his counterpart and injected him. The alternate Ashikiri is dying, but cackles to them that there are an infinite number of alternate dimensions to be accessed, all of which contain an even more malevolent Ashikiri. He dissolves into slime like all his other experiments. Ashikiri and Mio wonder how they're going to return to their own world. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and write in the comments if you want to see the continuation.